My specialty is works on paper. So I care for the prints, drawings, and photographs in the museum's collection. What I spend a lot of my time doing is studying the materials they're made from and trying to understand the current condition of an artwork. How has that piece aged? And how can we preserve it in the best possible way for generations to come? If, a work in our collection is unstable or has somehow strayed from the artist's original intention, then I will meet with the curator who is sort of responsible for that object. And then we'll talk about treatment possibilities for how we can conserve the artwork so that it can be returned closer to what the artist originally intended. Whenever a print, drawing, or photograph goes on display here at the museum, I will check the light levels that it's being displayed at to make sure that it's being displayed at levels that usually are fairly conservative, fairly dim, so that the artwork isn't sort of overexposed and we're able to display it, again in the future without causing considerable damage to it. I am sitting here in the paper lab at the museum, and behind me you can see a couple of pieces of equipment that I use. One is the gray trunk you can see, and that is an exhaust trunk that I can move down very close to the counter. And that's something I use whenever I'm doing any kind of localized treatment with a chemical that I don't want to have spread out into the room. I just want to have all of the exposure be sucked up into that trunk. And so that's really, a safety precaution. The white piece that you can see, sort of the trapezoidal white piece, is a light bleaching bank. It's not plugged in, so you can't see it, but when it's turned on, it's very, very bright. It sort of mimics sunlight. Light bleaching is a technique used in paper conservation to gently reduce discoloration. When you immerse a print or a drawing in water and expose it to light, it can have sort of a very gentle bleaching effect. I'm just going to pivot my screen to show you the piece of equipment that I probably use the most, which is a stereo microscope. It allows, sort of one to use a very focused light to look at an artwork, and you're also able to take one away and cast the light across the surface at 45 degrees, which is called raking light. It allows one to really see the topography of the medium or the paper more clearly. Another sort of source of light that I use is called transmitted light, and that is putting a thin light sheet beneath work on paper to see through it. And that can also tell you a lot just sort of about the structure of paper. The museum really has an incredible collection. So being able to hold artworks in your hands and to study them very closely and really have that intimate relationship is a big part of what I love about being a conservator. Also being, sort of part of a mid-sized museum, it's a really nice environment where one has the opportunity to really get to know everybody and to participate in different kinds of activities across the museum. The museum has a diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion committee. So that's something I also work on. So many wonderful colleagues at the museum, and that is certainly a big part of what I love about it too. It's perhaps one of the artworks that the museum is best known for, at least from its works on paper collection. And it's John Singer Sargent's watercolor from 1917 called Muddy Alligators. And let me try to show that to you now. The whiteness of the alligators is actually from the whiteness of the paper. So Sargent created the three-dimensionality of the alligators purely from these little dashes of blue watercolor. Even though it's the white of the paper just modeled by these small marks, the alligators themselves have such incredible weight. So I think it's just an incredible achievement in watercolor.